Hi, everybody. It's me, Pivot's Queen, and we are back with another chart breakdown. I am back from vacation. I had a fantastic time, but I'm kind of getting smacked back into reality, and I'm trying to get back on schedule. So this video, I wanted to make sure I did. It might be kind of quick, because I am also behind on a couple shows, not gonna lie to you. We are House of the Dragons family and we missed two Sundays. So we're gonna catch up on that and kind of eat dinner simultaneously. But I wanted to get this video done for you guys first, before I got into that. So first, I wanted to go over the news. Last week was NFP week, and it looked like last week was a pretty slow week until that news came out, and we'll go over that and how our pairs reacted. But this week we also have another big news week. Um, Tomorrow is it's Monday night right now as I'm recording this, by the way. So Tuesday we have ADP, which is a pretty big news event, and we also have existing home sales. Wednesday we have CPI, which is a really big one as well. And we have really big high like expectations for this one because NFP was very bad for the dollar on Friday. So the dollar really dropped. So they have no choice but to talk about inflation, and what they decide to do, whether they decide to cut the interest rates or increase it, is going to have a big impact on the dollar. So you want to make sure you're watching out for that news in the language you're using. And then that was Wednesday. Thursday is PPI, and Friday is retail sales. So these are big news events to look out for. If there's anything else news related that I didn't mention, I'll try to just enter that into the description box. But just make sure you're aware of those news events and what time they're coming out because they will have impact in the market. And I am expecting a pretty volatile week with the news coming out this week. So just be on high alert. Um, okay, so we could kind of jump into our chart markup. For EU, I am gonna have to switch charts because I did my top-down analysis on a different chart and I didn't switch it over to this chart. So we'll kind of flip back and forth. But I wanted to start here because this has the markup that we've been watching the past couple weeks. So I know before I left, we had this buy up that happened, and we were basically looking for the break of two key levels in particular to let us know what direction we were moving in next. So that's where these highlighted levels come in. This purple highlighted level, we were saying if price breaks above this high, kind of breaks out of this major trend line, we could see price moving to the upside. But if we saw price kind of drop back down, break underneath this low, then we could probably see price moves to the downside. We did have two trend lines going on, so I had this tighter trend line and then I had this wider trend line. And right now price is kind of bouncing at that trend line. We did get a minor break of that trend line, but we haven't necessarily gotten that selling market structure. So just to point that out, we have our low, we have a high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Kind of equal highs, but we made higher highs here, right? So we have this higher low region. Let me change this to a different color. Um, and I'll get my highlighter out. So we have this probably being like our last higher low region. That has been respected so far, even if we count this area here. That whole area has been respected thus far. So if we see a break of that level, that'll kind of indicate what we'll be looking for next. Um, Overall price still could get a different tool. Price could still come up and kind of test this level. And then we could see if price like respects that or breaks it. Um, so we're in a really interesting area of deciding what price is going to do next. I wanted to zoom out because overall we still are in that selling market structure for the most part, but it does look like this high has been broken. And I'm honestly waiting to see if we're going to see price kind of retest this area. So overall, that is what I'm looking for. I'm gonna switch charts just for a second so I could peek at my top down. It's essentially the same chart, but I started with like a blank chart and re-added everything. So I have my notes up here, even though that is not the right date. Um, when did I do this? On the 9th? Okay, so monthly is downtrending, weekly is uptrending, daily, we have a breakout of this channel to the downside. We're kind of consolidating. 4 hour, we broke out of our 4 hour channel to the upside. Okay. So it's kind of essentially the same thing that I was mentioning on that other chart. I'll switch back. Um, but I'm expecting price to kind of retest this area. Because we got the break, but we didn't get a retest. It could retest lower, like actually touch that trend line. But if these lows that are here stay respected, then we could see price move to the upside. If we break this low area that's in here, then we would see pretty strong pushes to the downside. And that is because let me get rid of this. This level that's here, this is like my daily low, and this is like my 4 hour low. So these are areas that I'm like looking out for to see if they're going to be broken or respected. But from the 4 hour time frame, this was like our last lower low. Then we had the lower high, but then it created a higher low, and now it looks like it's creating a higher high. So we could be changing trends if we see price create another higher low and then break above this previous high to create a higher high. That would indicate that we are changing into that buying market structure, right? So that is something to keep an eye out for, like long term. It is thunderstorming here. So if you hear the thunder, that's why. Um, so I do apologize. I'm gonna try to make this quick so you won't have to endure too much. I'll do that. I'm gonna clean this up just a little bit. I switched charts just so it'd be like a little easier. I feel like it'd be easier to look at with like a naked chart. Um, I'm gonna hide this. That move is pretty much done. We were expecting price to kind of buy up to this area, so now we have to see what price is going to do. Um, but for right now, I would just be looking for a retest of these highs and then kind of waiting to see what price does. Um, so I'm gonna put this was like our last low area. So if we get a break and retest of that low, I would be looking for sales to that zone. Um, I would say maybe this would be like the lowest I would see it going. Right, and then somewhere in that area, I would wait to see. Just in case, let me switch tools here. Price just kind of pulls back to this area and then continues with that up move. So that's why I'm targeting that area for now. I wouldn't really look to sell it down any lower because we are still in buying market structure for the time being. Um And then I would probably stop there. I will let price kind of do what it's going to do. Make sure I'm just following the market structure essentially. So like as price forms, so let's say it does break, right? And then we start making lower highs and lower lows. I'm just going to make sure I'm watching it. I have my trend line on. Um, because as soon as I see that trend line break and I see a break, above the previous high, I'm getting out. right? I'm getting out just in case we are starting to shift into that buying market structure. But I'm saying I'm watching it because remember this level down here, what's a higher time frame? Um, this is our daily low, right? So I'm watching it because if price does break that, then we'll look to sell it lower. Hopefully that makes sense because I'm trying not to give you everything at once. What I'm looking for essentially right now, for the time being, beginning of the week, I'm looking for this. All right, so just focus on that part if all of this feels overwhelming. Um, or you could also wait for the buy to happen. So you could wait for like the sell to be over and then wait for that buy transition. And get rid of that. And honestly, you could just set an alert like on this major trend line that I have. You could set an alert there, wait for price to break above the previous highs and continue with that buying market structure. And you can look for that as well. But I do think there's going to be a pullback that happens and then price might push it upside. There is divergence here. I believe I didn't label this, but I do believe it's 4 hour. Yeah, so it's 4 hour divergence here. So that could be some indication that we could see a push to the downside as well. So just keep an eye on that. But yeah, I think that's it that I have at least for EU. Let me put these buy arrows up. I am looking for the sell, but I do think it's more like a short-term sell to the buy. Unless we get that major break, then I'll change my tune. Um, but then for the buy. I'm really stopping at that zone because it's the previous high, so I want to make sure to TP around that level. But I would say to the next zone. I take things very zone to zone. So if you see a zone on my chart, there's a chance I partial close or I TP'd at that area, right? So that's the buy opportunity. And I hope that all of that made sense in my explanation. Um, but that's it for EU. So now let's take a look at NAS. This one we won't have to switch charts for. I did everything on the same chart. So just quick top down analysis. I want to hide this one for a second. We're gonna look at that fib, but later. Okay. And all right. So monthly. We are uptrending, right? We were at the top of this channel, price respected it. But then we could see for this month, at least so far, we are in kind of bullish on the month. Okay, so I'm interested to see if this pullback was just all the pullback we were going to get and price is just going to keep on pushing forward. Or if we're going to see price pull back a little bit more. But from the monthly, we are uptrending. And then weekly is pretty much the same thing. When we were here, we were like in the middle of the weekly. Now, not so much. So, but we are still uptrending for the weekly. Um, let's not forget, we're gonna switch to daily. We still have this daily level that's down here that has not been retested. So it's still an area of interest. But it does look like price has formed like a new higher low area. So before this was our higher low, higher high, and now we have a higher low that's here. So I did mark that with a daily low level. That's going to be a level we're interested to see if price ends up breaking that level or respecting that level. Right now it does look like price is failing to form a higher high. So that's something to keep a look eye out for too. But I do have an alert set when price breaks this level, so I'll know to keep an eye out for it. If that level is broken, I already know where I'm targeted next. Now we can look at 4 hours. Turn 4 hour back on. It is storming outside. I don't know how much of that is getting picked up. in the video. It's lightning, thunder, and everything. So I'm gonna wrap up really quickly here. Um, for our, let's see. Okay, so we had this 4 hour zone that we were looking at. I think the last time we dove in on this, and we were expecting price to have a reaction off of that, which it did. It had a nice push down, but now we've broken back above that level, and we've also broken out of our 4 hour channel to the upside. So we could be transitioning a trend, pretty similar to EU. We've broken above that previous high. We've broken out of our channel to the upside. So I'm wondering if we're going to see price kind of pull back and then continue pushing up, maybe making a new all-time high. We are in very interesting territory, so I'm interested to see what, ends up happening there. But until then, I do think we're going to see a push to the downside. So that's what we're going to be on the lookout first, or for first. So I was peeking to see if there was any 4 hour divergence. I didn't see any, but we do have a lot of 1 hour divergence. That's letting us know that it could move to the downside. When I did this, we were just at the bottom of this channel, but it does look like price is starting to break out of this channel. So let me break down the market structure really quick because always want to make sure you're following market structure. So we have a low, high, kind of higher low area, and then price created a higher high. This is like our higher low, and then we didn't create that higher high quite yet. So I'm interested to see if we're going to this. I'm interested to see if we're going to see price break below this previous low, right? Maybe come back, retest that channel, or even come back as far as to retest this zone. And then see what price ends up doing from there. So that's kind of my outlook for this week. Um, I know right before vacation, I was saying if we did break above this like highlighted area, we could see price buy to the top of this channel. Ended up buying beyond that, which was like cool to see. Nas is really like the only thing that kind of moved during NFP week, really. Um, Everything else kind of stayed the same. And it didn't have the biggest reaction on Friday, so I was interested to see. Um, Okay, so I'm not hopping into the sales quite yet because even though we broke out of this channel, I just want to make sure the market structure aligns. And I'm sure if we drop to lower time frames, you could probably use some of these lows as like your break of structure, but I wanted to be sure. So I'm using this level that's here. I have it marked with a line, but you could also like mark it out with a zone. Um, And essentially, if I see price break this low, I would be more confident in the sales. Just in case this breakout is kind of like a false breakout, and then price just keeps on buying, right? Don't want to get caught in that at all. So being on the safe side, I would just really wait for the break of this low that's here, and then wait on the break and the retest. I do have an alert set on this level, so whenever price breaks this level and like candle close below, I will be watching it. Um, and just to show you guys, I have it set as crossing down once per bar close, and I think I have this set on the 15 minute. So when the 15-minute candle closes below, I'll come back and look at it. Just to make sure it has the break that I want. So let's draw that out. And then I'm gonna wrap this up. This I feel like went a little longer than I was expecting, but hopefully it's some good information for you guys. So that's the sell. And then if we break above the previous high, so kind of break above this 4 hour zone, then I would be targeting the next zone or maybe up to this major resistance area. And then if we see it break that level, I'm probably not going to take it beyond that all-time high level. Because once we go beyond that, remember, we don't know how far it's gonna go once we pass here because this is new territory, all-time high territory. So it's hard for me to say like where it's gonna go to because it's never been there before. Um, so keep that in mind when you're trading this. If it does end up starting to buy, be on the safe side, trail your stops if you decide to hold it beyond that level because you just don't know how far it's gonna go. But I do think we're gonna see some type of pullback happen first before it starts to buy, if it does start to buy, and then make sure you're paying attention to that news as well because that could have a big impact on how the market moves. Um, so I'm gonna update this. Wait for break of last low for selling, and then target uh retest of 4 hour channel slash 4 hour zone, which is that orange zone there. So that's my outlook for this week. I'm really interested to see how this week's move or how this week moves. And I'll be back next week to kind of update you guys on how this ended up playing out and my outlooks for next week. So I hope everyone has a great week. Patient trading, follow risk management. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comments below. I'll make sure to get back to you. And I'll see you guys next week.